I'm going to make a drawing after this painting by Nicolas Maas. From the Rijksmuseum, and I'm going to use this paper from Clairefontaine, Dessin à grain. My French is not very good. Grain paper, and I use this 5.6 millimeter mechanical pencil with Cretacolor Brevilliers Nero medium lead. So I will put links in the description if you want to find it on Amazon or whatever. I'll use Amazon, I think. But I'm in the process of putting that together at this moment. So what I want to do is I want to make a drawing using tonal values. And I really like the way that this pencil reacts to the grain paper. So let's just make a little outline of her face, so I have some direction. And she has this I don't know how you call it. I would almost call it a hat, but that's probably not right to call it that way. It's a 17th century headwear, or how do you call it anyway? And now, well, I have the tendency to want to start with tonal values. So I'm going to fill this whole area, this whole paper, with tonal values. And let's just start here. I like how the texture of the paper plays a part in it. And that's why I don't like to use an eraser in drawings like this, because I feel that then the graphite becomes smudged and too smooth actually. I like the bite, one would almost say, of this pencil on this paper. So in the end result I try to avoid using lines. I mean, I put some lines on the paper to, you know, to have this drawing clear. But nice and clear. But I try to make a drawing build up from tonal values. And I need a little paper to put under my hand. Otherwise I smudge the drawing with my hand. And now I'm especially I'm building up the drawing, so to speak, to have a sort of basic drawing. And these are not the final tonal values of this area or any other area, but as I progress, I will add more darkness to this drawing where it needs to be dark, and so on, tonal values. And now it's starting to come together rather quickly, actually. This is quite a broad graphite pencil. Not sure if I should call it graphite, by the way. It's Nero medium lead. Anyway, it's nice to work with. Now I'm starting to make certain areas darker because there's a basic structure already. But her face needs to be done more. And it's good to notice the tonal values are, let's say, highest here in her forehead and here, of course. And the rest is darker. Even her nose is darker than her forehead. So it's good to be aware of these things before you draw them. So, oops, that nose. I think I drew it right, and I made some mistakes. Made a few mistakes now, but one can correct those. And now I'm still blocking in the basic tonal values of her face. Oops. Slightly too much pressure there. And I need to adjust the forms of her chin now, because I'm not sure about that, but it doesn't look really good now. The dark area underneath her lower lip. And I try to avoid visible lines of hatching, so I try to get an image that is really built up from tonal values alone, almost. I'm not sure if you can always avoid that you see tonal value of that you see directions of single hatchings, but at this moment I like smooth transitions more, and yeah, purely tonal values. And even the background is of a tonal value. It's not just white. She may be sitting in front of a white wall, but I'm not sure. But as it appears, it's not really white. So let's just fill that up with hatchings with a tonal value as well. I found this a quite painterly approach, actually. These tonal values and the lack of sharp hatchings. Now I just go further on the basic structure that's already there, and I can try to make it aesthetically more appealing. What happens here, for example, I really like this, to work in that area. So it's already dark, but you can work in there and make it more interesting, have some nice transitions from dark to light in her hair. So you have this almost woolen like area in her hair, which can be rendered with a certain softness in this technique. So gradually I apply more pressure on the pencil, and this gets darker, and you can make some subtle transitions from dark to light. And this needs to be done as well. And here is this earring, or what? Not really an earring, I think. I think it's something on her white clothing. And now there are still large areas white, which should be slightly darker than this area. So there must be a build-up to this area, and this area should be round. So that's still not the case. And this should be sharper as well. And here I added some lines, some hatchings, which some would say. And there is this sort of, I don't know what material it is, but it's a nice light, almost metallic area with highlights. I would almost say something golden or something, but probably not that expensive. But and this was empty, and just to have a few lines here makes it a bit more interesting, I think. It gets to, let's say, the white away here. And if I add some more accentuations, it has a bit of, it has a suggestion of this more or less at that place. So it's a suggestive detail of a metallic object in her, what she's wearing there, without being very detailed, because painting isn't detailed anyway. But now I want to focus on her face more. And the tonal values, I need to get this a bit darker. And this as well. And now I just refine the tonal values of her face. And her mouth needs some accentuations. Oops. I almost leaned too much with my hand here. As you can see, I already have some graphite on my hands, so it's important to have a piece of paper, because otherwise I will leave some of that graphite. You can't see much anyway, but I will leave some of it on the drawing itself, or smudge too much. Smudge it. And as you can see, it's a lot of adjusting to get the tonal values ultimately right. Maybe it would be a nice drawing if I leave it as it is now, for example, but I try to get tonal values more accurate. And what I noticed by this technique is that if you have worked on an area on the face and it is from a certain darkness, and you work on another area and you make the tonal values of that other area darker, for example, then that area that you first worked on, which you thought was dark, appears to light easily. So that's why I gradually go from one area to the other to work it all up. Otherwise, yeah, you get certain differences in tonal values and so on. Now this needs to be done as well. And now I'm holding the pencil a bit different. So sometimes I hold it like this as I'm writing, and now I have this and by moving it from my wrist, I feel I have more oversight, so to speak. So sometimes I change from position. Now I have this writing position again, and it's just what I need at the moment, which determines how I hold the pencil. I don't really have the kind of handling of pencils like I see some other draftsmen do. Some have this really artistic way of holding a pencil, and I just hold it as it is, as if I'm writing or something. What's most convenient to me, and everyone must see for themselves what works best. But I would just hold it as it is most convenient to you and most effective. And I'm concentrating on the tonal values on this side of her face now. It needs some work. I'll try to get things right. There's quite a dark line here, what Nicolas Maas has painted, so I just draw it as well. It works in his painting. I'm not sure if this is really natural, but to create a clear image of her head, I think he needed to it was a convenient way of having this shape of the head defined. But I'm not sure if it's, let's say, most natural thing to do, but one doesn't really notice it until you look at it, that this is a really dark line almost around her face. It's perhaps also to set it apart from the background more. And now the white clothing can have some definition as well. And I'm constantly refining the tonal values now. Constantly adding some dark here and there. Refining the relationships between the one and the other area. And I actually had it printed on a photograph, but there is this shine which, if you have the ability to print out images on a matte surface, like an inkjet printer or something, it might be convenient to do that instead of this glossy finish. So do as I say, but don't do as I do. But I can work very conveniently with these, but that's the only thing. But maybe I put another light here to solve that problem as well. Use a slight tonal value just to get the white away here. And this is the lightest area, so I keep this area white. When you look at it, this is the whitest area along with this, so I try to keep that, the color of the paper, the tonal value of the paper itself. And now I want to focus a bit more on her eyes. I'm not sure if I deformed her chin a little bit. I was too enthusiastically perhaps adding tonal value. Whenever you think that kind of mistakes start to happen, it's time to consider quitting, stopping with the drawing. Either take a break or consider finishing it. And her nose can be more defined. I see now. Sometimes you see even later in the drawing things that you seem to have forgotten or overlooked. And now I feel that her nose is slightly too light. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a break. I'm drawing late at night now, so I'm going to take a break, and tomorrow morning or so, later in the day, I'm going to finish it with a set of fresh eyes. It's the next morning with a fresh set of eyes. I'm going to finish this drawing. I'm looking at the mouth. There's something not good here, and this shadow needs some adjustment. These eyebrows need to be a little better in shape, in form, and I can see these things more clearly than when I was working on this all in one go. Because at a certain moment you are tired, you cannot see really what's happening in this drawing or what's going wrong. But now it's more clearly now. So I need to adjust this eyebrow. And this. And her mouth needs to be improved here. There's also quite a sharp shadow here around the tip of her nose. So when you take a break, it clears the head a little bit, you are rested and you can see things better. And I want to do that cap, or whatever it is she's wearing, as well. I need to be careful with that reflection as well. And carefully I try not to draw too dark here, because this needs to be the lightest area, but still there is some definition, so I don't want to leave it just white. So this drawing is about tonal values, and there are tonal values, transitions in tonal values here as well. But this is the lightest area of the drawing, so I need to be careful with that. And I want this to be dark as well. It's too light now. So I try to get this uniformly darker. This needs some work as well to define the form of her head better. And I really liked how this looked before, and then you become afraid to work on it. But that's not always good, because in another way, it's not totally optimal. It's not totally good. So one has to adjust these things again then later on, or leave it as it is, depending on your mood. But when I am tired, I'm a bit afraid to do sometimes, let's say, robust changes. So I'm a bit careful with that. If I have to do something to improve a drawing and it needs some real adjustments, then it's perhaps better to be rested, you know, to feel 100% ready to do that, instead of being tired at a certain moment. You are not at the top of your abilities, but perhaps 70% or something like that, or 50%, because you have already done a lot of drawing just before that or so. Then it's better to just leave a drawing and wait a little while. And this shape needs some adjustment. And some more here. I'm just working through the drawing, seeing where I left something to be improved. And I think that the drawing nears its completion slowly. Adjusting the background a bit. I did a slightly different hatching, slightly different form to make it more uniform as a whole. The appearance of the background, of the light background. Working on her hair now, making that more uniform and fitting with the hat. And I think I shouldn't do much about it anymore. And once you start with an adjustment like this, you have to finish it, because otherwise you get a irregularity halfway through this. And I'm really looking at it. What can I do to improve it or whatever? But I think it's finished now, more or less. Yeah. I think I leave that is. Thank you for watching. Thank you. And good luck if you are going to download this image yourself and work on this. Oh well. This needs a little bit. Thank you.